Hey guys, Nick here, and this is another Nick's Collectables. Just got my hands on the first wave of the Turtles in Time series of the Mutant Ninja Turtles. I thought we'd kind of sit down and take a look at these and see what they're kind of all about. These are reminiscent and designed after the actual video game that came out in the 90s. It's probably one of the most popular arcade ports of a beat 'em up game, I think, actually on the SNES period. It pretty much rivaled Final Fight and Streets of Rage at the time. The gameplay was really good and tight. The levels were nice and tight. The bosses were memorable. The turtles themselves are always memorable. And you can see just by looking at the box, they've managed to kind of capture that really, really well. If you look, you can actually see Slash's blade here. You can see Donatello's surfboard here. You can see his iconic bow staff. You can see his hands and everything like that. You can see the detailing and everything like that is pretty much designed around the actual arcade game and the kind of pixelization that would have come therein. This is not the first time that NECA has actually done figures in this line. They've done Jason and a few other figures as well in a more video game centric model. So they've got a pretty good level of experience and tenure under them when it comes to this kind of figure. So what we're going to do is we're going to break them out of the box and we're going to take a look at them and we're going to see if they pretty much stand up for snuff as an actual action figure or if they're just more of an easy display piece and that kind of thing. I gotta admit, I've got some pretty high hopes for these guys and I'm really looking forward to this one, so stick with me. So guys, we got the first one out of the box. This is Donatello, obviously. You can see here just by looking at it that he has that pixelated look to him on everywhere except for the feet. The feet are a slightly brighter color. I think that is meant so he matches a little bit better with the board because it's closer to the colorization of the board than it is to the remainder of the figure. You can see more of it right here and you can see a little bit of it right here. The reason for that is they're going for the video game look, which is what these are all about, is the 16-bit era video game that they were a part of. Thus the surfboard. Now the surfboard is cool because it just kind of moves on a ball joint that it attaches to and just kind of moves any direction that you want it to move. That's actually probably one of the pieces that's the most interesting to me out of this figure. Mostly because the rest of it I've kind of seen before. It's very classic NECA. The joints are good, but they're really stiff. The articulation is good, but not overly so. They do a very good job of representing the figure itself. But the surfboard is kind of a new thing for them. And that, I think, is probably the neatest thing. And it's great that they put it in here, because it was probably one of the more memorable scenes out of the game, as there were two places in it, in the sewers, and then again on like an ocean chase, where they used the surfboards themselves. If you go ahead and pull him off of here, he just attaches via one peg. You can see there, right? And you can even see how wide the board is, and it's got the purple colorization. I imagine that's going to be blue for Leonardo, who I also have. I'm going to be doing him in a separate review. I wanted to do Donatello and Slash in one, and the Foot Soldier and Leonardo in another. So we're going to go move this out of the way, and move this guy back in frame. So as you get him closer, you can get an even better look at the digitalization that they've done on the figure himself. You can even get a good look at the bow staff. The bow staff itself has kind of a painted in and grooved in wood grain, and it's really malleable. The reason I like that, as opposed to having it be one big stiff piece of plastic, is it's easier to kind of move and twist and get into his hands, which don't really open or close at all. Now he does have other hands like these if you want to just have him kind of surfing on the surfboard and not really have him gripping anything, and those do move. You can actually kind of see the peg a little bit there, so it'll twist. It'll go back and forth on that hinge. Those go in here when you pop these off. Now if you turn him around a little bit and look at him from the back, you can also see the digitization on the actual shell itself and on the back. You can even see, if you tilt this up a little bit, a place to store the bow staff itself. If you don't want to have it in his hands, I would imagine if you wanted to use these, that's when you would use this. At least that would be me personally. Now, as we take a look at him, you can see he's got the actual D for Donatello symbol. One nitpick on this so far is that this is not colored. I really wish they had colored that more of a black color. That may be more of an homage to the actual video game itself, more than anything. Let me get this more out of shot than anything else, if I'm honest. Now if you turn his head forward, you can actually see he's got pretty good head rotation. He goes back and forth, up and down pretty well. The eyes don't really have an iris on it. You got a little bit of the whites here, and that's pretty much it as far as the eyes go. Now, the legs move out pretty well. Mine are really stiff. That's one of the things I've noticed with NECA figures is they are sometimes insanely stiff. But you can see his leg will move out about that far. That's pretty much as far as it gets. At that point it starts hitting the belly band. And then we'll move back down. You can see here that here's the joint, and this bends in like this, and then comes back down. It is partially restricted by this band here, which is a different piece of plastic, bit different type of plastic than the rest of the leg. The foot does tend to move a little bit. It'll move up and down. It does not have any articulation in the toes at all. And the arms are the same way. Like if we go ahead and move the staff off of here, get that out of there. And you can see how flexible that is. Like literally I can just bend it back and forth in my hand. I'm almost a little worried that this might break over time if you're too forceful with it. So I'd be careful with it, as malleable as it is. But you can actually see here at the elbow, it'll move up and it'll move back down. But you can tell by the way I'm having to work with it that it's pretty tight. And then the wrist will pretty much rotate all the way around if you want him to, but there's no adjustment in the grip. He has a total complete grip there. The arms, again, are very stiff. They will do like a full 360. You can see he can do that, which is a little difficult for me to catch from this camera angle. And they will move out a little bit, but they're also very stiff. And I'm very nervous that I'm going to break them. So overall posability, he's got pretty good capability of posing. He was really meant more as a collectible overall though, to just kind of stand in a particular pose once you get him there and not roughhouse with him too much. He's not that kind of figure. And that's pretty much indicative of these higher lines. They're meant to be more display pieces. They are meant to be like actual toys for a younger crowd. So this is meant for the older crowd around my age or a little younger that were into the Turtles or into the game and wanted something that was a nice display piece rather than something that was a more playable figure. That's not to say that he's not a good looking figure. He is. He's just meant more for the more collectible level than he's meant for more of a toy level kind of figure. That said, I wish he had a little bit easier way of articulating because I'd like to be able to move him into more poses. This appears to be a chronic complaint I have with NECA, is they're not very good with joints. They have them, they're either stiff, they've got something over them that makes them more restrictive. They've got paint on them, which chips away a little bit. Their more animated line is that way. Which also is a little bit clogged up because of the way it's painted, making it difficult to put things in and move the hands in and out as far as popping them off. In this case, it's not so much popping them off, it's mostly the joints. Partially due to these straps here and here, and partially just due to the fact that they've made them so stiff that it's difficult to articulate the character into the poses that you want. Overall though, I'd have to say he's a fun figure. He's nice, he'll look great on a shelf. He will look good in combat poses with a couple of the other figures. I'm hoping to get him one in Slash when I look at him in just a moment. And we'll kind of put them together after it's all said and done and just do a quick comparison of them and see how they look together as a whole. And then when I get done doing the other two, I'll probably come back and I'll bring them all in frame so you can see all of them together. That said, as much as I've kind of bagged on the joints on this guy, I'm glad I got him. And so far, I am impressed with the line. I think it looks good. I think it looks very close to the video game. I think it looks nice enough that you could display it and not be like, oh, well, I just kind of bought that one on the cheap. It's not cheap. It's a very nice figure. It's got good weight. It's got good detailing. I just wish it had more flexibility in the way you could pose it to where I didn't feel like it was going to cause damage to it when I was moving the joints around. And that's just a pet peeve of mine with any figure that's like this. So let's go ahead and get Slash out and take a look at him. Okay guys, so here we have Slash out of his box. You can see he's got his kind of iconic jagged kind of blade. He's got his little hand blades here, and he's got one over here. I don't know if this is a manufacturing defect or if it's intentional. I looked up multiple pictures when I pulled mine out of the box, concerned that one broke off because there's a peg hole here, but I don't have a blade for it. And I've seen pictures with him having no blades on it, so I don't know if mine came missing one or not. So if anybody sees this and can post something in the comments letting me know if he's supposed to have two or not on this side, I'd appreciate it, because I don't know if I should try to return him. Much like the Donatello figure, you can see that the feet are a slightly different color, and you can see the same pixelization going on here. You can also see he's got some armor right here on his shoulder on it, and he's got the kind of wild, crazy expression with the teeth and everything like that that the character was really well known for. One of the other things that has actually fallen off of him that he has as far as an accessory is a grenade. Give me a minute here and I will go get that. So here is his grenade. This is not my favorite accessory. It's white on one side and it's gray on the other side, and I'll be damned if I know which side is supposed to be which in this case. I'm assuming the gray faces out because that's the easiest way I can hook it onto him. He cannot hold this in his hand at all. Way I normally do this is I end up like hooking it onto his belt here. This side is easier for me to hook it onto, and if I turn him that way you can kind of see it. So you can see that on his belt right there, right in that area on it. Overall, I think the detailing on him is good. His posability is actually worse than Donatello's. His joints don't really want to move at all. His arm joint here doesn't really want to move up down very well. These pieces here are incredibly hard to move. I've actually been afraid I was going to break him just trying to bend them a little bit. The amount of flexibility that you see there is about as much as I've really been able to get out of those. And I'm not even going to lie. I tried really forcing them, and I was actually terrified they were going to break. It's rather disappointing because he was the one I was looking forward to the most. I always thought he was a cool character in the cartoon. I thought he was a cool character in the video game. Overall, I just like the character. So to have him have this poor of a flexibility is very disappointing. I'm hoping that as I mess around with him, it will get easier. But for right now, he just doesn't have much in the way of posability. However, the back of his shell is actually really, really amazing. The whole Snapdragon kind of look with the spikes mutated on it, and the pixelization here along with the spike and the pouches and everything like that are really, really cool. I don't like his accessory bundle as much as I like Donatello's bundle. He just doesn't seem to have much with him outside of the blade and the grenade you can't even really hold in his hand. So from that perspective, I'm pretty disappointed in him overall. I really, really wanted to like this guy a lot more, but I have too many qualms with the fact that I have a beast of a time getting his knee to move. It really just does not want to go anywhere. And then half the time when I go to move his legs, they don't move independently. They're so tight that they want to move together unless I physically hold one and then move the other. That's about the only way I can get them to move independently. They're super tight. The arm is the same way. The entirety of the figure is just not really posable. Much to my great disappointment. And he does stand, as I had him before, but he's difficult to pose and stand because he has next to no flexibility. Unless you're a completist for the line, I don't know that I could honestly recommend this guy. Having gotten him and having played with him, he looks nice. He'll look good just standing there, but there's no way to do multiple different poses with him. This seems off-center from here, from over here, which may be intentional. It may just be wrong. However, it's difficult to adjust his legs to kind of line things up the way I would like to. I do like the fact that they actually did color in on his belt, the Z, a little bit, and they did a little bit of detailing in here on the belt, where you can actually kind of see he's got little shurikens, he's got little skulls and everything like that on there, which is kind of cool. As you can see, I'm now having difficulty even getting him to stand, partially because his flexibility is so poor, and the parts that do move just kind of want to move on their own. This arm right here, on this bicep part here that moves back and forth, I've had it just kind of flop over. It's just not tight enough. So this one has, mine copy has problems across the board. It is too tight and it is too loose all at the same time. So in that stead, NECA has kind of disappointed me a little bit with this figure, which was the one I had to do almost first. I wanted to do him before Donatello, but the surfboard was so cool I changed my mind at the last minute. Which is why he was the second one I did, because I just thought he was like the coolest character. And I am the most disappointed in him so far. Mostly because he doesn't move. Hardly at all. And when he does move, it's either like his legs want to move altogether, or pieces flop over, or he can't hold them in his hand, like the grenade. The sculpt is great. The colorization is great. I just wish it worked better as a figure. Part of the reasons I buy more figures than statues is because I want to change their pose. I want to have them in fight scenes. I want to have them standing in various different poses and put different hands on them, which he also doesn't have. He doesn't have any different hands for any purpose whatsoever. All he has is the blade and grenade. That is it. Those are the accessories that come with him. And only one of them can he really do anything with, other than just attach it to his belt. And if you were just going to have it attached to the belt, then why didn't you just make it part of the belt? Why did you make it a separate piece? I guess you could act like you threw it, but with it being painted white on one side and gray on the other side, it would just look awkward. It looks like it was a half-done job. I would give this one a hard thumbs down. I'm very disappointed. I was hoping for the price point that NECA was asking for, that this one would be better than it is. Because these are not the $20 figures that they've been selling us. This is closer to, like, well, I guess they're closer to 25 because I got the full set for like 90. And even then, I feel like some of the McFarlane Toys ones have better posability than this does, because mine just doesn't want to move at all. Putting him next to Donatello, they're pretty good and comparable in size overall. Man, these guys do not want to move. Yeah, he's standing a little awkwardly and he's a little hunched. So Donatello is likely a little bit taller than him, but not by a ton. I'll go ahead and slide them over a little bit so they're a little bit more centered. And try to get Donatello to stand up a little bit more. He does not stand well. He really actually needs a NECA stand to stand up, so I'm going to have to hold him. But you can see they're roughly the same size. Donatello does not want to stand off of the stand his own. His legs don't straighten out well enough on my table for him to want to stand without me doing a significant amount of prep work, which I'll try to do. There he goes. So as you can see, they look pretty good together. One has pretty good posability, being Donatello over here. And one has virtually no posability, which is Slash. Which makes me pretty disappointed in the line. I was hoping with this line being the way it was, and the packaging and the accessories that I was seeing, that NECA was really going to step their game up to the next level and become a big competitor in the collectible line. And maybe at a budget price point they are, but I can think of better budget price figures that you can spend your money on. Anything from the Black Series line, from Star Wars, anything from the new G.I. Joe Declassified line is in the same price point. Anything from the McFarlane toy line is in that same price point, including the new Justice League animated series. And they all look like they have better posability and better playability and better usability than these figures have. What these figures have going for them is the fact that they're the only ones of their type, And they are very true to the aesthetic. I don't know that I could recommend more of them. I'm still going to review the other two. This could possibly be the straw that breaks the camel's back, and how disappointed I am, and particularly in this figure, and make it to where I don't review NECA on this channel anymore. It's just not worth the money, because they don't move like they should. They don't pose like they should. As much as I love the surfboard mechanic, and I like how he looks on that, that's about the only way that I might display Donatello, and it may be the only way I display Leonardo. Mostly because I can't get them in any other effective poses without feeling like I'm going to break my figure. And given I spent roughly almost $100 on all 4 of the figures on it, I expected to be able to maneuver them into positions and not feel like I'm going to break them at any given point. And I don't feel like I can. So this is one I'm probably going to have to tell you guys to do a pass on, unless you're just a huge fan of Turtles in Time. From that standpoint, I would get them in one position, and I would leave them alone. And then the other thing that I noticed on this that's confusing, that I don't understand, is the bow staff I noticed when I pulled it out of Don's hands was separating. And that's because it comes apart. And I'll be honest, I don't know why. I don't remember that from the game. I don't remember that from the show. I don't remember it having any kind of purpose in doing that. It goes back together okay, and it looks fine when it's together. But the fact that it separates at all is confusing. I don't get that. So overall, I'd have to give these guys kind of low marks. Posability is difficult because the joints, while they have the right number of joints for the figures, they don't work half the time. The legs, rather than wanting to move independently, want to move together. The feet that are a different color, the more I look at them, the more I wonder why they did that. It's not necessarily bad, it's not a game breaker, but it's distracting. And I feel like it could have been colorized much more like the rest of the figure. The arm straps and the knee pads are great texturally to the feel. They feel nice. It's got a nice rubberized feel to it. But as far as the playability that it hinders as far as the joints moving, it's really disappointing. And doesn't allow for the posability and movability. And even if those weren't there, I suspect that the joints wouldn't move well anyway. So if I were you and you're not the hugest Ninja Turtles fan, or you're not the hugest Turtles in Time fan, and you just have to have them, I might give these two, at least this one, a pass. And that's a huge black mark, because I love this guy. I like the look of him. I liked the blade. I like the blades on his hands. I like the armor. I like the wild-eyed look he has, and the teeth, and the back of the shell is amazing. Just can't do anything with him. So, Don's probably still worth picking up because he's at least fun. He's got the surfboard, which is really cool. If you keep him on that, I think he'd look awesome on a shelf somewhere. I'm hoping that the rest of the line is better in this respect and has the posability I'm looking for, and maybe I just got a bump copy. If you guys want to tell me I'm wrong in the comments and you want to say that yours has good posability, that's fantastic. I would be super happy to hear that somebody has had good luck with Slash in particular, because mine is not good. Mine is not good at all, and it's got me gun shy enough that I'm not sure I want to even pick up Wave 2 because it feels so bad. But that's pretty much going to wrap this one up, guys. I'm sorry the review kind of went downhill and went on kind of a negative note, but if I don't tell you guys what I honestly think about these things, then I'm not being honest. And if I'm not being honest, then why am I doing the reviews in the first place? Because I'm not doing you a service, and I'm doing myself a disservice. So hopefully you found this informative and you liked it. hopefully it helps you from making any kind of bad decisions as far as purchases go. If you get this guy, hopefully you can at least do a return if yours isn't bad. I don't know that I'd buy the full set. I might buy them independently. I know it would be more expensive, but that way if you get a bum one, you can just more easily return it and try to get one that maybe moves a little bit better. Because they're in their manufacturing, I have seen sometimes where people just get a bum figure that doesn't want to move, and they get another one and it works just fine. To me, for almost $30 or $100 for a set of 4, I shouldn't have to do that. And I don't feel you should have to do that. But until the next review, guys, I'm out.